What if the greatest threat to cultivators wasn't other cultivators, but mortals who had learned to break the rules of the world itself? If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Hanli drew in a slow, steady breath at the sight before him. The thunderstorm wings on his back gave a gentle beat, and in the next instant, he vanished without a trace. A heartbeat later, he reappeared at the very edge of where the formation had once stood. Without pause, he swept a hand toward the three container treasures lying below. The gourd, the jade vial, and the round bowl shot upward at once, rising into the air before circling above his head like obedient spirits awaiting command. At that very moment, the full moon in the heavens tilted ever so slightly. A strange silvery radiance spilled forth, cascading down in a narrow beam that fell directly upon the endless sky beast. The fragrance in the air thickened, growing almost tangible. Ripples of watery light shimmered across the moon's surface, as though something deep within it was on the verge of spilling over into the world below. Without the slightest hesitation, Hanli's body swayed, then surged skyward in a streak of azure light, the three treasures following close behind him, like loyal companions. At last, a fist-sized drop of milky white liquid slipped, free from the moon. Yet the instant it detached, it dissolved, breaking apart into countless specks of soft white light. These drifting motes flowed downward along the silver beam, drawn inexorably toward the endless sky beast. What was most peculiar was the specks could only exist within that beam. The moment they strayed beyond its boundary, they vanished into nothingness, as though erased from existence itself. One by one, the motes sank into the beast's body and disappeared. The endless sky beast, still weakened from the lightning tribulation, had been on the brink of exhaustion. But as soon as it absorbed even a few of those luminous specks, vitality surged through it. Its eyes flared with life. It opened its jaws and exhaled a burst of demonic sigh, sweeping up the remaining motes and devouring them in a single breath. The effect was immediate. Its body began to swell once more, expanding as though awakened by some ancient stimulus. Above the moon rippled again. Another drop of white liquid gathered, then slowly fell only to shatter into countless specks of light once more. At the same time, a streak of azure light shot upward toward the moon, piercing through the dark clouds. But when Hanli came within 1,000 feet of his target, the air around him flickered. In the next instant, the clouds erupted. Countless arcs of silver lightning burst into existence with a deafening roar, lashing out in unison as they descended toward him. It was as if a swarm of silver serpents had awakened all at once, hurling themselves toward him in a frenzy and an awe-inspiring and terrifying spectacle. Even for Hanli, who had weathered storms beyond counting, the sight sent a jolt of alarm through his heart. Fortunately, the endless sky beast had warned him of this phenomenon beforehand. Though the ferocity of the attack exceeded his expectations, he had long been prepared. With a flick of his hand, a shimmering green object appeared in his palm, the eight-spirit ruler. Just as the lightning was about to engulf him, Hanli swung the ruler through the air. Silver lotus flowers bloomed into existence all around him, each the size of a palm, layer upon layer, forming a flawless, impenetrable barrier. The lightning crashed against the lotus blossoms with thunderous force. Arcs of electricity danced wildly across the barrier, crackling with destructive intent. The lotus flowers shattered one after another under the relentless assault. Yet for every blossom destroyed, another took its place, endless, unyielding. The storm raged, but it could not break through. Meanwhile, Hanli continued forward, the azure streak slicing through the sky. He was now within a mere 100 feet of the moon. As the second drop of white liquid formed and fell, his body suddenly faltered. It was as though he had stepped into a forbidden domain. Lightning surged from all directions, converging upon him in a denser, more violent tide than before. And yet Han Li remained unmoved, encased within a cocoon of silver lotus light. He ignored the storm entirely. Instead, he pointed calmly toward the three container treasures before him. At once the gourd, the jade vial, and the bowl shot forward as three orbs of spiritual light racing toward the moon. The moment they left his side, the lightning intensified. Explosions erupted all around him, each strike shaking the air itself. Han Li was like a lone raft cast into a raging, sea-buffeted, threatened, nearly swallowed hole. Even the endless lotus barrier began to falter under the strain. The protective sphere shrank, pressed inward by the overwhelming force of the storm. Silver lightning converged from every direction, closing in on him. Still, Han Li paid it no mind. His gaze remained fixed on the treasures ahead, and slowly, deliberately, he continued to advance. Yes, he was flying toward the moon, yet something had changed. When the three treasures came within 30 feet of the moon, they suddenly grew unbearably heavy, as though caught in an invisible snare. Their speed dropped to a crawl, inching forward like travelers trudging through Amire. Time was running out. The moon had already released its second drop, and its form was beginning to blur its edges, dissolving as if it might vanish at any moment. At the same time, the dark clouds churned violently. A terrifying pressure gathered overhead, vast enough to make even Han Li wary. The ninth wave of lightning was coming. The treasures were still several feet away, yet they moved no faster than before. Han Li's eyes flashed. He let out a sharp cry, gathering his spiritual sense into a single point. Then he struck. A spirit-stunned thorn tore through the air, blasting toward the moon with overwhelming force. The watery light on the moon's surface split open, a rift carved through its shimmering veil. The treasures passed through the gap and instantly surged forward. Without hesitation, Han Li opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His fingers danced through the air, striking the essence in rapid succession. The blood exploded into a crimson mist, then vanished. In the next instant, a strange transformation occurred. The three treasures, once each a different color, now glowed with a deep, ominous crimson light. They trembled, then shattered the invisible restraint. In a flash, they vanished into the moon. At that very same moment, the moon itself disappeared, gone as though it had never existed. Only the three treasures remained, suspended in the empty sky. Even Han Li could not tell whether they had succeeded or returned empty-handed. A thunderclap roared. All the lightning attacking him vanished, retreating into the clouds as abruptly as it had come. Yet instead of relief, Han Li's expression darkened. With a wave of his hand, the three treasures shot back toward him, cloaked in azure light. In the blink of an eye, they were before him. His hand flashed out, snatching the yellow gourd. He glanced inside just once before flipping his hand and stowing it away. The other two treasures he did not even inspect. They vanished into his storage pouch without a second thought. His face remained calm throughout, but the faint, lingering fragrance drifting from the treasures told the true story. His efforts had not been in vain. Meanwhile, the endless sky beast paid him no attention at all. Its gaze was fixed on the heavens. Though the lightning had momentarily ceased, it could feel the terrifying power gathering. Above, it did not dare to relax, not even for a breath. The silver demonic chi around it had vanished. It stood exposed at the center of the formation, utterly still. Even its original aura had been withdrawn. It knew none of that would matter now. A faint smile touched Han Li's lips as he turned toward the beast, about to speak, when suddenly a dull, heavy thunderclap echoed from above. A massive arc of silver lightning emerged from the clouds, thick as a water tank, over 200 feet long. It twisted and coiled like a colossal worm, then came crashing down with unstoppable force. Its blazing radiance lit up the entire sky. The endless sky beast's expression changed. Drastically, without hesitation, it opened its mouth. A grey bead shot forth, spinning above its head, its demon core. But before the lightning worm could strike, Hanli moved. He raised a hand. A small silver shield flew out, expanding instantly into a radiant barrier that enveloped the beast within. Then he simply stood below, watching. Calm, unshaken, the beast let out a long breath of relief. The lightning worm slammed into the barrier with a deafening roar. Light exploded outward in all directions. Yet the barrier only trembled and held. The attack had been stopped. But the worm did not dissipate. Instead, it circled, striking again and again. Each blow thundered across the sky. Each strike weakened it. Gradually, its form shrank until only half remained. "That's enough, fellow Taoist Han. Withdraw your treasure. I can handle the rest." Hanli nodded. With a simple gesture, the barrier vanished. Freed, the lightning worm lunged once more, only to be intercepted by the demon core. The core quivered under the impact, yet remained steadfast, absorbing the brunt of the attack. No matter how the worm shifted or struck, it could not break through. Little by little, it was worn down until nothing remained but fading sparks. Below, Hanli stroked his chin thoughtfully. The final waves would not be a problem for him. This tribulation, no matter how fearsome to the beast, was in his eyes nothing extraordinary. The true question was not whether he could withstand it, but whether the endless sky beast could endure what remained. The final 2 waves of lightning unfolded almost exactly as Hanli had anticipated, with his silver shield intercepting and dispersing the majority of their destructive force. What remained was left for the endless sky beast's demon core to endure. Though it struggled under the strain, it ultimately prevailed, weathering the storm with stubborn resilience. When the final wave of lightning tribulation came to an end, the dark clouds that had loomed overhead dissipated as abruptly as they had gathered. Sunlight pierced through the heavens in an instant, washing over the land in warm, golden brilliance. Within moments, the sky was swept clean, vast and cloudless, as though the violent tempest had never existed. At the center of the formation, the endless sky beast remained, shrouded in thick layers of grayish-white, demonic ki. The energy cocooned around it, forming something akin to a massive chrysalis. Its surface quivered and pulsed faintly, as if something within was slowly awakening. Hanli was not in the least surprised by this sight. Having survived the lightning tribulation, the beast had entered the phase of bodily reconstruction, its transformation into human form. This process was not something a demon beast could consciously control. Much like the birth of a human, its outcome was governed by inherent nature, rather than choice. Still, the final appearance of a demon beast's human form was not entirely arbitrary. It bore traces of its true body. Demonic foxes, for instance, often emerged as strikingly handsome men or breathtakingly beautiful women. In contrast, creatures of grotesque origin rarely escaped their ugliness even in human guise. A thought flickered through Hanli's mind, and his gaze drifted into the distance. There, the carcass of the mutated narwhal worm had already been devoured completely by the gold, devouring beetles, leaving not even a trace behind. The swarm hovered in the air, emitting a restless buzzing hum. Hanli let out a low call. At once the golden swarm converged toward him, flowing like a living current before vanishing into his spirit beast pouch. With that, he sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and entered a state of quiet waiting, calmly, anticipating the completion of the endless sky beast's metamorphosis. A day and a night slipped by. When Hanli opened his eyes once more, a dull thud echoed from within the cocoon. Suddenly, a slender, fair arm burst through its surface. Moments later, the clear, youthful voice of a small child rang out from within. "I've finally succeeded. My thanks for your assistance, fellow Taoist Han." A faint smile touched Hanli's lips as he rose, slowly to his feet. Several days later, Hanli returned to the interconnected peaks of the Dream Cloud Mountains. Within the secluded chamber of his cave abode, he sat in silence. In his hand rested a shimmering golden horn, its surface glinting faintly. Before him lay the three container treasures. Suspended in the air was a massive azure cauldron nearly 10 feet tall. Seated atop the cauldron was a small child, dressed in yellow robes, absorbed in an aged hide-bound book. This child was none other than the endless sky, beast in its human form. Though not identical to the projection it had, once manifested, the resemblance was unmistakable. It was only natural. Having already undergone metamorphosis once in the spirit realm, the beast possessed a vague memory of its human form. The projection it had previously shown was merely an approximation of that memory. Hanley absent-mindedly traced the uneven patterns along the surface of the golden horn. After a moment of contemplation, he spoke. After some testing, I've found that this horn can absorb nearly all forms of spiritual power and release them as well. Its only limitations are the amount it can absorb at once, and the rather slow rate at which it does so. The child lowered the book and turned toward him, a bright knowing smile on his face, as expected of a material born from a mutated demon beast. The ability to absorb spiritual power is exceedingly rare. Even in the spirit realm, countless cultivators would go to great lengths to obtain such a treasure. It is particularly prized for refining defensive artifacts. Many renowned spirit treasures of that nature rely on materials like this. Defensive artifacts. Hanley's gaze sharpened slightly. Could it be used to forge battle armor? The child chuckled softly. You're as perceptive as ever, fellow Taoist Han. With this horn and your fire spirit threads, you could indeed refine an exceptionally powerful suit of armor. It might not reach the level of a true spirit treasure, but it would not fall far short. He paused, his tone turning more serious. However, I would advise against it. Hanley frowned slightly. Why? I happen to be in need of such armor. If your intention is to remain in this mortal realm indefinitely and prioritize safety above all else, then yes, armor would be your best choice. The child replied calmly. But if you intend to pass through a spatial node and ascend to the spirit realm, a faint, meaningful smile appeared on his lips, then this material is far better suited for something else. Hanley's eyes narrowed slightly. What kind of treasure? The realm transcending bead. The child answered without hesitation. Hanley was taken aback. A realm transcending bead. When your avatar descended, you mentioned something called a realm transcending stone. Are the two related? The child fell silent for a moment, considering his words carefully. They are indeed related, he said at last. The realm transcending stone is a naturally occurring treasure found only in the spirit realm, and it is consumed upon use. The bead, on the other hand, is a refined treasure that can be used multiple times. He paused briefly, then added, but in terms of power, they are worlds apart. A realm transcending bead possesses perhaps 1% of the stone's potency. 1%, Hanley echoed, momentarily speechless. The child gave a soft chuckle. Do not underestimate it. Realm transcending stones are unimaginably rare even in the spirit realm. They stand alongside the star-defying plate as one of the 3 most coveted treasures for crossing realms. The bead cannot compare, but it is still highly sought after. Its ability to breach spatial restrictions makes it invaluable, and the fact that it requires a material capable of absorbing spiritual power makes it just as difficult to refine. His expression grew more solemn. I once entered a spatial node out of curiosity. Though I withdrew immediately, the memory of it still fills me with dread. The spatial storms, the boundary between realms, their power is beyond comprehension. He looked directly at Hanley. Even if you fully master your law destruction, your chances of passing through a node remain infinitesimal. If it were otherwise, the spirit realm would be flooded with cultivators from lower realms. His voice dropped grave and unwavering. Attempt it without a realm transcending bead and It will be the last thing you ever do." Hanli let out a quiet breath, a wry smile forming on his face. "It seems I have little choice then." The child laughed lightly. "If you did not possess the Lord Destruction Eye, I wouldn't even bother mentioning it. Only with both would you have the faintest chance." He lifted a hand casually. "I'll provide you with the refinement method for the bead in exchange for the glacial quintessence you gave me." Hanli shook his head with a faint smile. "You truly dislike owing others." Then, after a brief pause, he asked, "There's something else. I once witnessed another 8th-grade demon beast undergo tribulation, but its lightning was far weaker than yours. Why such a difference?" The child answered without hesitation, "That is only natural. The strength of the tribulation corresponds to the strength of the beast. The more powerful the creature, the more devastating the lightning." He added almost casually, "It is said that heavenly spirit beasts, dragons, phoenixes must endure 13 waves of lightning during metamorphosis. Compared to that, I was fortunate to face only 11. "I see," Hanli murmured, understanding dawning on him. The child lifted the aged hidebook, a faint smile playing on his lips. "This cultivation art, the 9 Gale transformations, is quite intriguing. But why show it to me? Are you perhaps interested in demon cultivation methods?" Indeed, the book was none other than the one Hanli had obtained from Xiaokuya. Within it were both a nameless aura concealment technique and a powerful demonic cultivation art, inscribed in demon script. "Its potential is too great to discard," Hanli replied calmly, "and it complements my thunderstorm wings. I was hoping to modify it for my own use. As a demon beast, you should be able to do that." "Yes." He paused briefly before adding, "In return, I'll lend you the half-page of the Golden Jade." "Tommy." The child frowned slightly, deep in thought. "The technique itself is indeed suitable. But there is a fundamental issue," he said slowly. "To wield it, one must possess the physical body of a demon beast." He glanced at Hanli. "Your body refinement is impressive for a human, but it is still insufficient." Hanli remained silent for a moment before replying, "If the gap is not insurmountable, I can bridge it. I cultivate the bright jade arts, a Buddhist body refinement technique. With each layer, my physical strength increases dramatically. I've already reached the 2nd layer. By the 3rd, I should meet the requirements." The child froze slightly. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "The bright jade arts, a Buddhist technique." He leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing with interest. "How many layers does it have?" 7, Hanli replied. A peculiar smile spread across the child's face. "What a coincidence," he said softly. "I, too, possess a Buddhist body refinement art, also divided into 7 layers." Hanli faltered slightly upon hearing those words. A flicker of confusion crossed his eyes. He could not fathom what the endless sky beast meant. "This cultivation art originates from Buddhist teachings," the small child explained calmly. "Yet in the spirit realm, it is practiced by nearly everyone. In fact, it is even more widespread than the basics 5-element cultivation arts used by Qi condensation cultivators." "Everyone," Hanli repeated, his gaze sharpening. A trace of realization began to dawn upon him. "You mean to say—" The child's lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. "This technique can be cultivated even by mortals, those without a single spiritual root. Should a mortal reach the 3rd layer and acquire suitable weapons, they would be capable of contending with low-grade cultivators and demon beasts. And if they attain the 5th layer," he gave a soft, almost chilling chuckle, "even mid-grade cultivators and demon beasts would think twice before provoking them." Hanli stood stunned. Only after a long moment did he manage to respond, his voice laced with disbelief. "You must be joking, fellow Taoist Endless Sky. Mortals opposing cultivators like us. Haha, you have yet to ascend, so there is little point in revealing too much." The child replied lightly, "But this much I can tell you: within the spirit realm, mortals form an indispensable force among the human race. His tone grew more measured, more contemplative. There were once exceptionally gifted individuals, among them people of extraordinary intellect. By studying the rudimentary techniques of cultivators and demon beasts, they discovered a way to refine their own bodies, using the ambient spiritual chi, all without the need for spiritual roots. They forged an entirely new path of cultivation. He paused briefly. There are even those among them who have slain high-grade cultivators and demon beasts. Such feats are not unheard of in the spirit realm. Han Li's expression stiffened. The cultivation art I speak of is known as the Vajra arts, the child continued. It is one of the most widely practiced methods among mortals. Even so, Han Li frowned. No matter what you say, mortals cannot truly rival cultivators. Most cultivation arts and treasures are beyond their reach. Of course, the child conceded with a slight nod. Mortals remain mortals. No matter how strong they become, without spiritual roots, they cannot pursue the great Tao. Their lifespan is but a century. Even with rare elixirs or treasures, they may extend it by another 100 years at most. That is their limit. He paused, then added, however, in the spirit realm, it is possible to acquire spiritual roots after birth. Han Li's eyes flickered with surprise. Among the 3 human sovereigns, the child continued solemnly, the heavenly Yuan Holy Sovereign was once a mortal of great renown. Only through a miraculous opportunity did he obtain a spiritual root and step onto the path of cultivation. Yet in power, he stands equal to the other 2 sovereigns. Han Li stroked his chin, momentarily at a loss for words. Do not dwell too much on this, the child said, waving a hand dismissively. Such feats are only possible because the spirit realm is saturated with far denser spiritual chi than lower realms. Your world has long suffered a demonic calamity. Its spiritual chi is sparse even compared to other lower realms. He shook his head faintly. Even if mortals here were given the same cultivation arts, they would not be able to absorb the world's origin chi. Cultivation would remain impossible. Other lower realms, Han Li echoed, startled. Are there truly more worlds beyond this one? A strange expression appeared on the child's face. Of course. Beneath the spirit realm lie hundreds, perhaps thousands of lower realms. The most exceptional cultivators from each ascend upward. In recent years, very few have risen from your human world. His gaze grew distant. Other realms, untouched by the invasion of elder devils, have produced far more ascendants. He continued calmly. As for why I sent my avatar here, there were 2 reasons. First, the spiritual chi here is sparse. While that makes descent more difficult, it also helps me evade my own great tribulation. Second, this realm is dominated by humans. No one would suspect I would hide my avatar here if my enemies were to discover and destroy it. His voice trailed off. All my efforts would have been for nothing. Han Li fell silent once more. He had always believed the human world to be unique, worthy of special protection by the spirit realm. But now he realized there were deeper, more intricate reasons behind everything. Enough of that, the child said abruptly. Knowing too much will not benefit you for now. Let us return to the Vajra arts. His tone shifted back to one of quiet authority. This cultivation art may be practiced even by mortals, but it is notoriously difficult. Very few ever reach the 3rd layer, and fewer still the 5th. Most remain at the 1st layer, gaining only modest physical enhancement. To reach the 2nd layer requires marrow, cleansing, a process so agonizing that few can endure it. He smiled faintly. Yet because there are so many mortals in the spirit realm, there will always be those willing to try. Those who succeed at the 2nd layer gain strength comparable to low-grade demon beasts. He looked at Han Li thoughtfully. I have never heard of your bright jade arts, but I suspect it is closely related. There are only a handful of Buddhist body refinement techniques. Most likely, this is the only one that has made its way into your world. Han Li nodded slowly. That does seem plausible. The bright jade arts has indeed been difficult to cultivate. Give me a jade slip, the child said suddenly. I will record the Vajra arts for you. If it is identical to your technique, it will be of little use. If not, you may choose between them. Hanli smiled faintly. Then I shall thank you in advance. Fellow Taoist Endless Sky. He flipped his hand, producing a jade slip, and tossed it over. The child caught it effortlessly, closed his eyes, and began to inscribe the cultivation art within. Meanwhile, Han Li's smile faded. His brows furrowed as a series of memories surfaced of a copper plate, and another, cultivation art, the sacred provenance plate, the heaven-bearing devil arts. He already knew both the demonic art and the bright jade arts originated from the elder devil realm. One was the method to unleash power, the other, the foundational body refinement. But something had always been missing. A bridge, a transformation technique. When he obtained the heaven-bearing devil arts from Manhua, he had only given it a cursory glance, but that had been enough. It was the missing link. How it had come to be regarded as a supreme, devilish art did not matter. What mattered was this. He now possessed the complete set. And now, with the 9 Gale transformations requiring progress in the bright jade arts, a strange thought stirred within him, as though some unseen force was guiding him, step by step, toward the sacred provenance plate. Time passed. After roughly 10 minutes, the child opened his eyes and raised a hand, sending a streak of yellow light toward Han Li. With a flick of his sleeve, Han Li caught it. The jade slip. The technique is recorded within, the child said calmly. Take a look. Han Li nodded and immediately immersed his spiritual sense into the slip. Moments later, he exhaled softly and withdrew. The child's expression remained unchanged. It is the same, he asked indifferently. Han Li hesitated briefly before replying. It is. There are minor differences in the methods of absorbing spiritual qi, but otherwise, they are identical. The child nodded, as though this outcome had been expected. In that case, he said, lifting the aged hide book slightly, if you wish to cultivate the 9 Gale transformations, you must first reach the 3rd layer of the bright jade arts. I will modify the technique for you in the meantime. After all, your thunderstorm wings are merely treasures, not true wings. Adjustments will be necessary. He paused, then added with a faint smile, and do not forget your promise, the golden jade. Tommy. Han Li chuckled lightly, gesturing toward the treasures before him. Rest assured, fellow Taoist Endless Sky, I keep my word. But before we proceed, will you not consume more of the imperial elixir? The child glanced at the containers, then shook his head. It is indeed a wondrous elixir capable of awakening intelligence in demon beasts and aiding their transformation. For human cultivators, it can expand meridians and strengthen the body. He continued calmly, but it cannot be consumed excessively, nor can it be stored for more than a month. For me, it is no longer of use. His gaze shifted to Han Li. But for you, especially with your bright jade arts, it will be quite beneficial. Han Li smiled. Then I shall make good use of it. With a sweep of his sleeve, the bowl and jade vial vanished, leaving only the gourd behind. He formed a hand seal. A faint glimmer of light flickered in his eyes. Suddenly, silver light shimmered along the chamber wall, and another Han Li stepped forth from the shadows. Without hesitation, the duplicate reached out, drawing the gourd into its grasp. Silver light flashed, and it vanished once more into the wall. A trace of surprise appeared on the child's face, but he said nothing. Instead, he cupped his fist in a silent salute before dissolving into the cauldron. Han Li glanced at the jade slip one last time, before it too disappeared between his palms. Then he closed his eyes and began to meditate. At that very moment, a streak of silver light shot forth from the main peak of his cave abode. It flickered through the air, vanishing into a restricted region of the drifting cloud sect, only to reappear and return shortly after. Within the chamber, Han Li remained unmoving, yet from time to time, That silver streak would emerge again, departing into the distance, only to return days, or even a month later. No one knew where it went. No one knew what it did. Time flowed on, silent, relentless, and in the blink of an eye, 2 years passed.